Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Wherever you are, good afternoon, good evening, good night. And this is a early version of my program, the Jamaica Mix. And we want to use the time, the next hour or so, to take a look at the impact of Hurricane Melissa on the Jamaican space. And at the same time, we want to take a look at just how the country has been coping. We want to take a look to at the the response from the various areas and how all of this is going. So, can I invite you to, just join in the conversation. Of course, if you're wherever you are watching from, if you're on Facebook, you can always just, join the conversation. I see the messages as they come up or the responses here on YouTube, the same thing. I want again to use the opportunity to just welcome everybody. And, we want to have some exchanges and then look at the activity. Now, I guess everybody, first of all, there's a newspaper report this morning where um, local government minister Desmond McKenzie is offering a defense that the government, well, I guess there was a press conference which seemed to be the general position of the administration in terms of how they deal with these issues, and where everybody is everything is a press conference. But be that as it may, so apparently in one of the press conferences yesterday, media houses are asking, some tough questions of Mackenzie and the administration in terms of how they have been handling this thing. And his response was that nobody can plan. They plan for a Category 5 hurricane, and I would give him that. You can't plan for something like that. And he goes on. The administration is not incompetent, and we are responsible. We are proactive in preparing the country. It's a kind of an oxymoron because in the one instance in play, you can't plan and take. But the reality is that the perception of the public has to do with how the administration is how the administration has been dealing with the preparation or the aftermath of the the hurricane. And in life, in life, you know, perception is more dangerous than reality. As them always say that, right? And so someone else's perception, whatever that perception is, if they have no reason, no opportunity to shift or to change that, that perception becomes their reality, right? And so that becomes the problem and has been the problem with the administration in respect of this thing. The people's perception is that the government has not been doing a good job with respect to addressing the issues that have arisen as a result of the hurricane. Again, let me put it out there. Let me make it clear. No island in the Caribbean has ever been struck by a Category 5 hurricane. So already the situation, the event is unprecedented. However, we have been hit by hurricanes in the past. Our biggest hit from a hurricane would have been 1988 with Gilbert. And I think out of in the ensuing years, because Gilbert was 1988, by 2004, if I remember correctly, the administration at that time had established the ODPEM, Organization for, or is it, Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. And so one would think that that's about 2004, that's 20 years ago. 20 years ago, this facility has been in place. And so one would think that there would have been a gathering of professionals who have the training and the preparation to deal with stuff like this. Now remember, you can't 100% prepare yourself. We know that, but certainly, if you have a professional team, people who understand the whole concept of disaster management and training, it's one thing to feel that you're a good manager and you figure you can manage anything, but not everything you can apply that kind of thinking to. And so, in the context of a national disaster, a hurricane of the magnitude that we're talking about, what it does require is significant coordination. Coordination that speaks to every aspect of your existence, right? So, at the beginning, I made some observations, watching the press conferences that, that seem to flow every day prior to the landing of the hurricane. In fact, if you go back to the development in the parliament a few days before that, where the opposition walked out, and depending on which side of the political divide you take, the opposition no get no support, or them do. Now, but the opposition was asking some pertinent questions. People of the defense of the speaker is about the protocols and the standing orders and so on. But I would give them the benefit of the doubt that they were more concerned with the kind of preparation that the government had made in the with the approach, given the approach of this storm. And so by not allowing those questions to be fielded, even though you may argue that I'm using the same standing order defense, but this was a different time and it required a different approach. And so the intransigence that came out of that led to the walkout of the opposition. And then a few days later, the hurricane struck. And what became clear is that some of the very issues that they seem to have been attempting to raise has now become the ghosts of this whole thing. Because your disaster preparedness personnel, these are the expert at this thing. And there are several approaches with respect to these disasters. We know it's a hurricane, we know it's coming. What we're not 100% certain of is the strength. We also know when it will land, because they're right at your doorstep and look for you, right? And so a lot of things needed to have been done within 48 hours of knowing the hurricane will strike you. You may not know how. Certain things now have to be put in place. And those things, when the hurricane hits and subsides, passes, a different set of approaches now has to be put in place. And so a disaster preparedness program speaks to every element of this thing, and it has what you call a conjoined effect. There isn't a separation, right? Although the activities may be different, the recovery period, right after the hurricane. So when the hurricane strike, and so we know now is a category 5, so we know is a bitch of a boy we have, dangerous hurricane. And so we know, we can see the decimation. The next action is rescue, right? Search and rescue. Search and rescue begins immediately the storm passes, right? So whatever assets you have, whatever personnel you have, right? Their job immediately after the hurricane pass, even if the rain not done fall, you have to start to try reach people to see, because people are injured. You have people, you have a whole heap of people who are, you know, aged and infirm. And so that is what the whole idea of search and rescue is about. And so your focus now turns to who are your most vulnerable in your population: the old, the indigent, the infirm, the youngest people in the family, young children, kids. And that's why you have search and rescue. So one would think that your firehouses, fire brigade stations, your local government authorities within the respective parishes, all of these people are people who have, whether them did win the election or them no win, them put themselves up for office to run as an administrator of a community, a district, a town, a city. And so if them no win in an emergency situation like this, these are some of the first people that you must rope in to become part of your team structure to address the recovery, the recovery component of the hurricane. Right? We just come out of election. 63 candidates offered themselves up to run as people representative at the parliamentary level, right? One side win, one side lose. But all of them, all 63 of these people turned up and offered themselves. So them saying, I have the competence to operate in government at this level. It don't matter that them don't win, you know. The fact that they were selected means that these are 63 people out of a population of 2.8, 2.9 million. That at least we can identify them. So when we now have this emergency, common sense say we are going to draw for all of these people, because you need all hands on deck, right? And so you need to, all of the brain power that you can get. The brain power is not reposed in the group of people that won the election only. And so what has happened in Jamaica, in Jamaica's case, is that the administration, the administration won, Mr. Olness party win. Welcome, Opal. I understand your situation, but just stay with, you know, in and out as you can. All right. So the Holness administration has won, and what they did, one would think, common sense for me, say, all right, taking the same angle that I just represented, 63 away, go to the city starter, and only one set of man win. But 28 out of them set, out of them 63 successful, right? So it, in fact, is not, it is 126 Jamaicans offer themselves up for run for government in the country, right? And one side win, right? But that 123 bodies, 126 bodies are people who have made themselves available to operate in the politics at the highest level. So if you're going to build a team, the first thing you do as a leader of any kind of organization, country, town, business, whatever, is that you draw for those resources because you have already vetted them, right? My group win. So naturally, we are going to head up the thing. But we need all hands on deck because you guys have all offered yourself to serve this country. What we have seen over the last 7 days is an absolute disaster, a train wreck, if ever there was any other description. Because the administration has politicized. I'm going to say it, you know, the administration has politicized the response to the hurricane. Now, based on the track that the hurricane took, right? St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney had the most significant impact. The hurricane did affect other areas of the island, including even, some of St. Thomas get a little brush, Portland and so on. Will if a rainfall elsewhere, Mandeville, Manchester get some leaks. But the brunt of the damage is concentrated in the county of Cornwall, a largely rural side of the country, right? Montego Bay and so on, and the Sablamar, Santa Cruz, these are the cities and towns within the county, the parishes of these counties. And of course, the devastation is stark. In fact, the Jamaican media has done the Jamaican population a disservice in terms of how it's covered this thing. Because to a large extent, one gets the impression, based on the images that we have been seeing coming out of Jamaica. Thank God for social media and TikTok and people who have cameras and things. Because the Jamaican media has really made a hash of the coverage. CNN had a program this morning where they gave an account, a visual of the devastation. And I think for the first time for a lot of Jamaicans, particularly those on this side of the world, were gobsmacked to see the devastation. Here's the other side. So I mentioned at the beginning about search and rescue, because that's the first thing you need to do. Search and rescue. Remember now, electricity is down. People rely heavily on cell phone, but a lot of the cell towers that were in those areas that basically provide a link in terms of the telephone communication, a lot of them are down as well. And so you only, have a very small window, because these are, as I said, deep rural communities. And it was already going to be challenging on the search and rescue personnel, wherever them come from, to find these people. But the important point is that you have a very small window, 24 to 48 hours in this kind of situation, to search and find people and try to rescue people, right? Instead of doing that, where we have the JDF, I understand they may have moved their equipment elsewhere, and so it took them a little time to get back. But the very first thing that the JDF supposed to, because they have a helicopter, is to get those helicopters and you start the search and rescue thing, right? And that is a part of the disaster preparedness or disaster management program. It's an integral part, because after 48 hours, you are now going to move away from search and rescue to recovery, where you really are recover in the main bodies. And why it's important that all of these pointers are made, because remember, when we have some cultural issues that we have to take into consideration, that all of these people seem to have forgotten. What has happened is the whole coverage of the hurricane from a political standpoint became a show for particular personnel to be using it for photo opportunities and grandstanding and so on, while people are dead, right? People are dead. And we have, government, first of all, the sitting political administration has completely ignored the opposition. The, the, the local government authorities within the affected parishes, I have hardly heard any reference, any mention of bringing that network operation into play to deal with to try to mitigate some of the suffering of the people within these communities, right? What I hear is a lot of fluff. For example, the Minister of Tourism, about 3 or 4 days ago, on again press conference, and with him sweetie jaw telling, oh well, we know it's a tough task and thing, but Jamaica's tourism should be back on track by December in time for the winter season. Now let me ask you something. I wonder what kind of weed he must smoke, because maybe it have to be that you're on drugs to make a statement like that when one considers the level of the devastation, right? Tourism is a big part of our thing, but the United States has already downgraded Jamaica to almost a level 3 in terms of our ability to welcome anybody anywhere. And then basically I tell American travelers, you can't go to Jamaica because the place mash up, right? And so instead of looking at the most important component of Jamaica, the people, what we do is tell the business people in tourism that we are going to protect your interests. We'll do everything to make sure your tourist facility get back up and running. Where you get the workers them from? The workers them not a yard for live. Them house mash up. Them not have nowhere to live and sleep. So where you gonna get these workers from? You can barely find people who are nurses and doctors and things in the hospital. You can't, not even the administrative people, the hospital them when a mash up, not have nobody for work. But you are promised as a minister of tourism, forget tourism back on track, without looking at the people them who in your constituency in St. James and the rest of the Cornwall, the Cornwall County of Jamaica, who is suffering, right? And so it made the argument that who is important, the people or the people who can make money, or is this an event, an activity that as politicians we will see how we can squeeze as much money for ourselves? Because one of the things with a hurricane or any kind of natural disaster is that a lot of the people from outside who provide aid and so on, and especially those who provide monetary aid, that is not money that people have to report in terms of where you're doing it. And so there is an expectation that a fair amount of money is going to come into the country. And one gets the impression that people are putting themselves in position to capitalize on all of this. Well, let me tell you something. The hurricane came ashore in Jamaica. They've said between St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland, but the brunt of the hurricane hit Westmoreland. And in a lot of places like White House, totally demolished, totally devastated, right? Santa Cruz, Sablamar, Black River, right? When I get a whole heap of information out of Hanover, which again is kind of worrisome because you'd have figure a lot more information a week in. But the reality is that our infrastructure, housing infrastructure, is a good 85% damaged or destroyed. Now, one of the things I hear people talking about with this hurricane is that, and there's a reference to Gilbert, right? there's a reference to Gilbert. I say, oh, you know, recovered from Gilbert, and a lot of relief money came through the form of insurance settlements. People made claims against insurance companies. So a lot of that money that the insurance claims that were paid added to the productive capacity of the country at the time and helped the recovery. My sense is that the same is not going to be true in this instance, because most of the three parishes hardest hit, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, and Hanover, a lot of the people who own their homes, well, first of all, a good 60% of the housing stock are board house, which means that these are people who don't have no resources to build no substantial housing structure. And a lot of it, these are houses built on capture land or land that people live on that they have no title for. The fact that you don't have title for a property means that there's no monetization of the property in terms of its value. So even if you build a nice house on the property, right? Even if you did build a nice house on the property, the fact that you don't have a title for the house, you can't get it insured. And therefore, what it says is that if you whatever money you spend to put up that house, and if it mash up, you dep on your own, you are not going to get any insurance. So the reinsurance money that some are talking about is not going to materialize for these people. So a lot of these people are going to be in dog con piece down the road, right? The government needs its own media. You need to be giving thanks. Some disasters take hundreds of lives. I don't know what this person is trying to say. The reality is that we need to think. What are the beauty of the period we live in relative to, say, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, is that the mainstream media is not the only source now for providing information. And so a lot of the information blank out that used to happen is not happening. Granted, it has its downsides, so because a lot of rubbish comes out as information as well. But at least people must now use some critical thinking skills and disaggregate. I'm not into that kind of thing. What I have with my discussion programs is to provide education, information, to provide to try to inform people, to help the critical thinking, because I'm not into the spec. I could care less who is the government. I don't care who it is. Well, it could be Joe Blow from down the road. What I care though is that if you take on the job of providing the governance, there are certain standards for me that you have to follow. And from what I've seen here, that is not happening, right? And so again, it comes back to the whole question of perception and reality. To the man who is stuck up in the hill, right? Who has been in the bushes and the hinterlands and can't get no help, can't get no electricity, the house blow down and them sleeping out in the elements. The government are the persons responsible for the recovery and rehabilitation. Your pleadings means nothing to that person. To the people who have lost loved ones, to the people who have to be sitting out in them yard with dead bodies piled up around at the back because we don't have no mechanisms to collect those bodies, right? That is their reality, right? And so one of the things where we have to learn, regardless of how old you are, and I'm a big old man, but I learned very early in my life the concept of empathy. Empathy basically means your ability to put yourself, to put your feet in somebody else's shoes. In other words, to be able to appreciate what somebody else have got through. Not necessarily because you have been there, but at the very least, by virtue of the fact that you see what them are dealing with, you understand the extent of the suffering that them are go through, and so you can appreciate that. And so once you have embraced this concept of empathy, then the grandstanding now working out. You now recognize that your job, your responsibility is to make sure that you are doing the very best to secure those people. And so I want to come back. I believe that the government missed an excellent opportunity to bring the country together when they failed to include their political opponents in the teams that is handling the recovery and rehabilitation of the country. Because Jamaica is not only for the 400,000 people who voted for the Jamaica Labour Party. Jamaica have a population of some 2.8, 2.9 million, 2.7 million people based on the most recent census survey, and maybe another 1.2 million who live outside of Jamaica, right? Jamaica is for everybody. And so as the leader of the country, you're not just leading the JLP people, you lead the entire Jamaica. When election done, me line up behind whomever is the prime minister. I may not like you the way you practice your politics, but me accept that this is what the people want, right? And so, and then what me expect from the leadership is that you put on your big band trousers, draw up your thing, your belt, and you lead the people of the country, right? As Errol Walters said, until the persons with experience are allowed to do the work, the result is going to be an add-on to the disaster. And you are absolutely right, because that is exactly where we are. What we have done, as Opal is saying here, is that we have missed an opportunity. The government of Jamaica has missed a phenomenal opportunity. And I'm dumbfounded that, you know, an organization or a leadership can be as intransigent as is being demonstrated here, where you can't see that there's a benefit to modifying your position. Okay, so I went out too hard, so let me ease off a little. Let me change tactics. Let me bring the people in. It is an embarrassment. It is an indictment on our political leadership when the opposition party, who now have $1 for rub get, $2 for rub against one another, is promoting that they are putting them own recovery and response team together to go down the western side of the island to help with the hurricane recovery. It looked bad. And I don't care if you're labor right, if you're this or you're that, it looked bad. Right? What do we want? The opposition must go fall down on the knee and you know, kiss people butt to be part of the national recovery effort. What could go so? What could go so? Who advised these people? Who's advising our prime minister? You know, me always tell people, me like Mr. Wallace, you know, me like him, or him thing and him ability to relate. But it look like him skin too thin. Because because Golden must bruise him up in the debate, and you know the statutory declaration issue. Somebody a carry belly for somebody, and it look like the reverse is also true too. So the two political leaders them not talk. Well, make I tell you something, we are going to hell in a handbasket, because while all of this are going, people are dead. People are dead. I never thought the day would have come when I could have a good word to say about Darrell Vaz, right? The Prime Minister put Darrell Vaz and Desmond McKenzie. I don't know what Desmond had upon that. I've granted him as the local government minister. But a broader based committee with more heads, a broader representation, particularly the political personnel who come from down the side of the island needed to be part of this thing because they know these communities better than anybody else you can bring from Kingston, right? So we wait for the American to send on the Chinook helicopter them and thing, and it took maybe 3 days for this to become operational. You know what happened in the 3 days? More people dead, right? And then we have the administration of resources, what we call them, care packages and so on, right? Because people out there for days now no water for drink, or them are forced now to go drink dirty water and water that has been taken. Whole heap of the animals dead, right? Whole heap of animals dead, people who were raised goat and cow and fowl and thing, and them dead and them out in the water. And no other water not there for drink. So people are going to try to see if them can strain out the water, if them can catch up like a fire or whatever. So what we have is a tsunami lurking in the wings now. A tsunami of waterborne illnesses, a tsunami of health challenges that is going to come because of the negligence on the part of the people who were administering these recovery and relief efforts to recognize that the hurricane never come and knock on the labor right door or take off labor right house stop and left PNP or vice versa. It come and it give Jamaica a brute of a lick. And so what we need is a Jamaican approach that looks at the disaster in the context of its impact on the people of Jamaica, right? Not a matter of who are labor right and who are PNP. But unfortunately, this is how we are responding to this thing. And while all of that is happening, guess what? People are dead. People are dead. So here's my challenge. And you know, I am myself getting, you know, I had some activities that I was looking at. You know, in fact, I was planning on taking an art show to New York for the end of November, and I've decided, you know, something. Let me wheel that around. Let me do the art show, but we're gonna do it virtually, right? And so the biggest need right now is shelter. I understand that some man in Jamaica have produced some 1 and 2 bedroom house out of shipping containers. So may I try to find out the price of the thing. I see where somebody give me a price. I mean, what I plan to do now is I'll run my show and I'll see if I can pinch off, if it's even at 10 grand off of the proceeds. And me, I will take the money there and see if I can buy 2 or 3 of them container house there. I don't get to no politician. I go there go do it myself. I find the links and find 2 or 3 family who desperate and I give them. Right? I will encourage everybody who out there who can do something. Help. Help. Because guess what? Right now, it no matter which political organization you go, we're all the way at Jamaican. If you cut we bleed the same blood. Right? And me learn in a life that I am my brother's keeper. I don't need no for going to church for know. I know that a long time. I don't need no politician to point me in another direction. I can do that myself. Right? We can do that myself. So what we need to now do is for all of us who can who can do something, do it, right? Me not beg nobody nothing. Me not out there beg nobody nothing. Me not beg no donation or nothing. I'm an artist. I'm a fine artist. I have a huge portfolio of work. Plus, I also purchase the work from other artists and resell them. I am putting up a substantial amount of my work for sale, and I'm proposing that I will take a third of the proceeds, and I am going to use that money to see if I can help provide shelter for 2 or 3 families before the end of November. So if you want help, we are welcome to come on board. And all you need to do, go up on my website, buy a painting, right? Purchase a painting, yaadmedia.com, YAAWD media.com. Go up on the website and purchase a painting, right? Let me make sure see if I find one thing I say. See there? Yaadmedia.com. Yaadmedia.com. Go on it, right? Purchase a painting and we will do the rest. Me not beg you no money. Me I sell you a painting. And me I will take part of that proceed. So you have a benefit. Part of your benefit for the hurricane relief thing is that you get a nice painting at a good price. And you know, say a portion of what you spend gone in a good hurricane relief project, right? I don't believe in this thing where you give people a fish so them can eat. I believe in setting up people so them can help themselves. And if you can help somebody to find some, get some respite, that's what I want. So check out that, Yard Media, right? Let me see if I have a thing. Yardmedia.com. See there? Yardmedia.com. Go to the site, purchase a painting. Tell your friend, share it, spread the word. Me will release the full information. We'll start the program on Friday, the 7th, which is a day before my birthday. I'm old already, so I'm not tell you how old maybe, right? But that's my thing. So listen, me not tear down nobody, but me believe that me have a responsibility with my platform to bring people into a state of awareness, because somehow there is an attempt at presenting a different picture than what actually is operating on the ground, right? It is still not too late to recast the whole disaster management program, because here's the problem. Recovery is the longest part of dealing with a natural disaster, right? And from what I'm seeing here, it is going to take us maybe a good 2 years for us to recover from this thing. So the current administration, you still have a little window to do a reset. Bring all of the people who are available, who are willing to serve. We need volunteers. I see a little thing going on where them get some people for do some volunteer nurses going on the western end of the island. But we need more volunteers. You need volunteers who have to go out there and do what you call needs survey, go do life surveys, go see the status of people, right? Separate and apart from the people who are the rescue and the recovery and all of that. People need to, and then you need a structure that is planning how do we treat with these people to get them over the hurdle. The other thing what we need to do is to quickly revitalize these communities so that the communities, people will feel that sense of self-worth enough that they're willing to, if go back, go set up a little business. If it's in a little retail shop, a little restaurant, something, so that some economic activity can return to some of these areas. I understand that the devastation is significant, but while we look at the short term, we still have to start to bring the medium and the long term into the picture. You have to bring them a little bit in off of the horizon, so because we cannot feed 500,000 people out of your pocket for the next 6 months. It's impossible. The country now have the money, and the people who are donors, they're not going to do that forever. So again, part of your disaster preparedness and emergency management program would have spoken to that. And so I'm unapologetic with that. The country missed a golden opportunity. The country seemed to have sidelined the disaster management professionals to the extent that we are now where we are, right? Who knows? Maybe we could have saved more of those lives. My assessment is that a lot more people are going to turn up dead. But even worse, there is the challenge of mental health issues. A lot of people have been traumatized by this storm. Where are the counselors? Where are the grief counselors? People who lose their loved ones, who have had to be sitting in a house with a dead body for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, right? That indignity that the dead body is dealt with, and the fact that the indignity that falls down on the relative who have nowhere to turn. And after my understanding is that people are now contemplating burying their deads in them yard, because neither police nor health authorities have come to visit. The point is that the devastation is far greater than has been presented. It is not a walk in the park. And while I understand Mackenzie and Mr. Vaz's position in terms of the job that they have to do, and they might try, I mean, I take nothing now for them. But one of the first things we learn in our life is that when you get a task to do, one of the first things you do, you take a measure of the task and then you look at how much more people we need to bring on board, right? And you always leave yourself open to bring more and more people, because that's how we recover. As long as we politicize this response, right? As long as we take the position where, boy, I'm not deal with them man because them are labor right, I'm not deal with them man because them are social, them are PNP or PNP, and we don't want them in a part of a thing, then we will never get out of this. Because Bob Marley said the rain never fall upon one man house top, right? The rain lick down everybody, right? It lick every single God Almighty soul, right? So we have to, right? We have to be more proactive. Now is not the time to be sitting down there and lick your wounds and your ceremony over the fact that, boy, man, I criticize you. Listen, you accept the job to be leaders of the country and parliamentarians and so on. That job come with cussing and criticism, and especially in a dem time, because guess what? You sign on for it, right? Parliamentarians in Jamaica, especially cabinet ministers, are some of the best paid people in the country. And don't believe you collect taxpayers' money for nothing. And to the opposition, me have a word for UNO too. Because UNO need to get yourself in order. We have to find a way to break down this wall that exists between yourself and the government. Right? You have to find a way. And we can't take this acrimonious position to try to deal with everything all the while. Jamaica bigger than that. When we get past this 2, 3 years down the road, we can go back to crap on the deal with. Right? We don't have to. And there's another thing too. That's one of the reasons why I say probably the PNP is being treated like that by the JLP man. Because I see some communication around the corner about who I tell lie about which part them did there when the hurricane bust out and so on. And this a PNP a cut PNP throat, So the problem is we have a culture of disregard for each other, disregard and disrespect, and a culture of selfishness. Because in other words, if me can't get where me want, me abandon the place. And it no matter if I burn down the place with all of it in it, including myself. We have to do better than that. We have to. We have to. We have to, at the same time, use this as a teachable moment. We have a ODPEM, right? That disaster preparedness and emergency management operation was created for a purpose. The job of the government is to utilize it, not to try to jump in front of them because there's a camera and a microphone there. They are the professionals. We need to revisit, we need to reconfigure it, put personnel in there that are relatable. You need to provide them with constant ongoing training. Hurricane season starts in June. You can't wait until when a hurricane are come. That's when we activate our national disaster preparedness and emergency management program. You have to check that almost. It's like fire brigade. We live in America, yeah, and you watch the fireman at the fire station. And periodically, them dip on the road and practice fire drill, how to respond, how to wheel out a hose and get the hose operational within a matter of seconds, right? How to rescue people. These are the things that keep people in practice. And then if a disaster busts out somewhere else, you volunteer some of your own people to go there so them get practice, right? So it don't matter that a hurricane come at Jamaica. Hurricane fall in the Caribbean every year. And every time a natural disaster or bust out, you need to take a team of your core, a core of your team of disaster management personnel and offer their services to the space where standing in the way of being impacted by this, because it's practice for them. Me not charge no money for them advice. I'm free, right? But we have to take an entirely different approach. We have to be more proactive. But first and most importantly, we have to learn to work together. Why aren't the ODPEM not at the forefront? Why is it only ministers? I guess they're using the critical. Well, I asked that question before. A good friend of mine basically tell me, so, oh, there's nothing to see here, and the government has been doing it. Well, the same person who made those comments, we see him on social media this morning. I said, boy, the government let him down, because the grandstanding and thing where him say I go on, they tell you that it was a mistake not to use ODPEM. And people, the problem that I have with us as Jamaicans is that we become so sucked in by the political culture. Nobody wants to be, you can't take no criticism. You can't take no criticism, but you don't know goddamn what you're doing. You have no idea what you're doing, but you refuse to take any telling from anybody else, right? The one thing I learned as a youngster, early on, my early days at Grace Kennedy, is that as a manager, it's not about you. It's about building a team that believes in a way I do, a team that is going to rely on you for guidance, a team that recognizes your ability to appreciate that you don't have all of the answers. But if we work as a team, using the teamwork model, we can find the answers. I think that's something our administrators want. In 1988, when Gilbert struck, I said publicly, I had the opportunity to work with Carlton Alexander, who was the chairman of Grace Kennedy at the time. I worked with him personally. He formed a team of about 18 or 19 of us. We moved our offices down to the warehouse in Newport West, and we were there almost 7 days a week. On a Sunday, we left a half day because we needed to get the country and the company back on its footing. And that man taught me, I may have a master's degree and all the things, and all of them academic qualifications meant nothing compared to the lessons that I learned working with Mr. Alexander. And while he was leading us and leading Grace Kennedy to get it back functional and profitable. He was also part of the leadership of the National Recovery Program. And you know why he was able to be so impactful? Because he knew his weaknesses as well as his strengths. And he knew that his strength lay not only in his ability to do things himself, but to get those things done through working through other people. He never feel like that, right? He never asked none of it who you did vote for in the election, whether you're PNP or you're JLP. When see all of us as was Jamaicans were are under the barrel of the same gun, the devastation caused by Hurricane Gilbert. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of leadership. I don't see it showing itself in the 7 days since we have had this crisis. I don't see it. Maybe it is there, but because of how these people have attempted to manage this program, they have sought not to reach out to find that expertise. I don't believe that it doesn't exist. I'm pretty certain it is there. But, you know, the time has come to change direction. The time has come where we have to now start to look at this thing in a more holistic way. That we are one set of people, and every man out there who is willing to contribute some efforts, we need them, right? Let me, my condolences to the people who have lost loved ones. My heart go to those people as well who have lost their possessions. And again, if you can do something, I would say to your blessings, Melissa, if you can help, whatever it is, whatever way you can, right? But I think what we need to do, again, let me just want to remind people, on Friday, I'm going to kickstart my own little project where hopefully, if we get the support, I'm offering my, a portion of my art collection out there to the buyers, and I'm planning, my intention is to take a portion, a third of the proceeds from this event, and we're going to convert that and see if we can help to buy 2 or 3 of those container homes back in Jamaica that we can give to some needy family. Can't go all out. I don't believe in some of the approaches that I say, but I not tell people what to do. This is my thing. But if any way you can help, right? And if an immediate way, if you want to join on this effort, go to my website at yardmedia.com, and you purchase a piece of the work. I'm gonna do some bigger PR on that over the next couple of days, and yardmedia.com, and you can purchase a piece of the work, and a third of those proceeds, we are building a fund. We're trying to raise about $10,000, where we can use that 10,000 US and see if we can purchase 2 or 3 container homes that we can make to some needy families who have been impacted by this thing. My people, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for indulging me. I hope I never put anybody to sleep. I hope you found the information useful. Check out my website at yardmedia.com. Check out, if you're on YouTube, check out the stuff that we've been posting over the last couple of days. Melissa, me now lie to you. In the last couple of weeks, I really don't do it often enough. My proposal though is to do this on 2 days a week, a Tuesday and a Thursday, and it's gonna be just around this time between 11:30 and 12:30, and we go either an hour to an hour and a half. I don't believe in going too long because it gets a little bit unwieldy, right? But again, let me thank you guys for your support. Check out my content on my YouTube channel if you're there, you're on Facebook, you're on my website. You know, check out the content that we have there, right? Um, yes, you're right, Melissa. I used to do later, but the circumstances now determine that we want to try to reach a lot more people, and it's in the daytime hours people seem to be a little bit odd, but we're gonna play by ear. But I'll keep you posted. Send me a little note, and I will get you a link every time I come live. Again, let me thank you for your company. Check out the content, and if you have the wherewithal and the desire to, and you want to support the program that I've just announced, thank you very much for that. How we can help to benefit somebody or some alleviate some of the sufferings. This is our little way. Again, all the very best until we do this again. We'll be back on Thursday, sort of on the heels, and on Friday when we launch the program, we're gonna spend an hour to do that launch as well. More time.